Hello ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome back to the Force Feed, the show where I keep you up to date on all recent gaming news and announcements. Today is Thursday, December 8th. Let's just jump into today's gaming news. OnLive has launched a new app today which is going to allow players to play console class type games on their phones and tablets. Yes, this new application launched today will gain you access to games such as Assassin's Creed Revelations and LA Noire. Now they've got a growing library of 25 console class games that have been adapted for touch screen control. The remainder of their games can be played via the Universal Online Wireless Controller, available for $50. Being able to game on the go like this is pretty phenomenal, especially for such recently released high-class games. Now, if you don't know much about the online service, it essentially works like this. You're playing the games on their servers via the OnLive cloud on your PC or now on your tablets and phones. Now, one thing to really note about this is the quality of your experience will be based on how close you are to their OnLive servers. The closer you are, the better the latency and the better the gameplay experience. The further you are, the more issues you're clearly going to have. But again, if you are within relatively close proximity to some of the online servers, this service is pretty awesome. And the fact that a new application for touch devices such as tablets and phones is available now, again, I cannot imagine playing Assassin's Creed Revelations on my tablet. That is awesome. Really happy that they're actually making strides towards this. I really do feel like this is going to be part of the future of gaming, things like the online service. Pretty awesome stuff. To find out more information, be sure to take a look at the video description link below. Early access to Star Wars The Old Republic is coming earlier than expected. It's been known for a while that if you purchase the game early, you're actually going to gain early access to the game. It appears like that date is going to be December 13th at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. This is going to be a full 7 days before the official launch of the game. Now, I did make a video just the other day discussing my feelings on Star Wars The Old Republic as something I do want to clarify. One of the main reasons that I personally am not that excited about the game is simply because, in general, I'm not a huge fan of the Star Wars universe, and I'm not a huge fan of the BioWare conversation style of play. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to give the game a shot, and in all fairness, it is an MMO, and you really don't get to flesh out and get a good feeling for the game until the later stages of the game. But I also don't think that you should have to wait till the later stages of the game to find out if something is fun. I mean, either you enjoy it or you not. Nevertheless, I will be getting the game. I will be pre-ordering it, so getting it 7 days prior to launch. And with that, I'm going to try to get a better feeling for the game, and I'll probably end up making some videos. Whether or not I'll go very far in depth, that's up in the air at the moment. But I did just want to let you guys know, and I did also want to clarify a little bit. It's nothing against the game itself. It's just that the Star Wars universe has never been all that exciting for me, and having gameplay which is very typical to the modern day MMOs, that in conjunction with it being Star Wars, I was just kind of meh, but I'll check it out nevertheless. Trine, the physics-based puzzle-solving platformer, was just released and is already boasting sales of 1.1 million units. Very, very impressive, such quick sales and such high numbers for an indie developer. Now, this is a game that I've boasted quite a bit about. I am very impressed with the guys over at Frozen Byte and what they've managed to do with Trine 2. If you haven't seen it yet, please go ahead and take a look. I'll provide a link in the video description below to a video that I did covering the beta, and I'll probably end up doing a little bit more coverage of this game. Great co-op fun. Even if you don't like platformers, this is a great game to take a look at, so please do so. Nintendo has made a statement today denying Miyamoto's plans to actually step down from his current position. Now, Miyamoto is, of course, the mastermind behind such games as Mario. Don't know if you heard of it. Probably have, and he did mention the other day in a Wired interview that he was planning to step down from his current position of managing director of EAD division for Nintendo to try to work on smaller projects. Well, immediately after that announcement was made, Nintendo's shares dropped by 2%, and as a result, we had a Nintendo spokesperson come out today speaking to Reuters, stating that it was all a misunderstanding and that Miyamoto is not stepping down. Now, it's really hard to tell where the misunderstanding is, whether it be through Miyamoto and his interview or between Nintendo and Miyamoto themselves. We'll have to wait a little bit longer to find out more and get some clarification on this. But essentially, Nintendo came out and said, hey guys, don't freak out. We don't want our shares to drop. Miyamoto's staying put. We'll have to wait and see what eventually does happen and whether or not he actually decides to leave his current position. Now, the interesting thing about this is to have one man state that he is stepping down and have shares in the company drop by such a significant amount overnight. That's pretty interesting. It just goes to show you the faith that the people have in the company itself, or behind one person whom they deem the mastermind. Would you lose faith in Nintendo if Miyamoto decided to step down? Would you decide, hey, Nintendo is probably not worth it anymore? I doubt they're going to push out any other great products. It is a pretty interesting concept. It's a pretty interesting idea. Let me know what you guys think below. And then lastly in news, I want to point you guys to a recent Kotaku article discussing whether or not we've reached too much fantasy genre, too many fantasy games. More specifically, he states that there has been a fantasy lore saturation point, or he's at least raising the question as to whether or not we have reached it. This is specifically discussing the upcoming Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning and the fact that, he personally feels like, there's just so much fantasy lore in the industry right now. There's so many fantasy games that there's just too much. There's too much to handle. I can't take it anymore. And I thought it was a very interesting article. It was certainly a good read. My personal perspective on this thing is no way, not even close. High fantasy, as it would be deemed, is my personal favorite type of setting for any game. I loved Warcraft. I love the Legend of Zelda series. I love the Lord of the Rings series, the books. Not necessarily the games so much, but the books I absolutely loved. High fantasy has always been my favorite genre, be it literary or otherwise, and I don't ever think I would tire of these type of games, RPGs especially. I'm very much so looking forward to the upcoming Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. And when it comes to high fantasy RPG style gameplay, I will never tire of it, but how about you guys? Alright guys, and lastly, we're going to wrap things up with our question of the day. Going back to our first topic, our discussion of OnLive coming to tablets and phones, this is really the direction that I feel like the industry is moving towards, less and less focused on the individual's console, and more focused on portable devices and being able to play from a cloud. And not even necessarily specifically focused on the portable device, but being able to play through the online service, which gives you access to a huge library of games anywhere you want, basically just signing into your OnLive account and you can hop from game to game. Now, the major hang-up with something like this is simply the fact, as stated, that your experience with this type of service is really going to drastically depend on how close you are to their servers. But how do you feel about this? If we're thinking 10, 15, 20 years down the road, are we going to see more and more focus on consoles and the physical devices inside of our homes? Or do you think we're going to be more focused on cloud-based gameplay? Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Force Feed. Stay tuned tomorrow for another episode, keeping you up to date on all recent gaming news and announcements. Once again, this has been Force, and you've just been force-fed.